The company of our Kyiv correspondent Gulliver Cragg, as well with us now from Warsaw, Maria Zolkina, research fellow at the London School of Economics, head of regional security and conflict studies at the Democratic Initiatives Foundation. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24.
Glad to see you and Gulliver as well.
The request by Volodymyr Zelensky for F-16 fighter jets, was that the right move?
It is the right move because we are actually at the decisive moment for the next stage of the war, exactly because it's pretty clear Ukraine is going to prepare itself for large-scale counteroffensive in 2023, and we need to increase capabilities of the army to enable it to do that. And F-16 is actually another important component because the full-fledged air defense system is not possible without not only proper land-based anti-aircraft systems and anti-missile systems, but also without fighter jets. And actually, this is the wave. This is the moment when our Western allies are reconsidering the types of the weapons they are going to send to Ukraine. And fighter jets is simply another component in this chain of changes.
What's the score with the air campaign? Because we don't hear much about what fighter jets have been doing these past 11 months.
Actually, it's the discussion about fighter jets started actually last spring. If you remember, Ukraine was advocating seriously for closing the sky idea. It was not done. Instead, the discussion was started. So actually, this is not something new. In Kyiv talks with our partner states. And moreover, there are some signals and information that some of Ukrainian pilots are already prepared to actually use this Western style, Western type of fighter jets. Or it's pretty close information, let's say, but this discussion is already in place. So it started far away beyond the current moment, let's say.
So there might be Ukrainian pilots who can fly the F-16s?
There will be a necessity to have Ukrainian pilots. And there are some signals that this program to prepare Ukrainian pilots to do that is actually about to start, or some sources say that it has already started, actually. Because it takes really long time to prepare pilots. It's a different type of fighter jets. And regardless of the fact that Ukrainian land forces usually get ready to use Western-style artillery or anti-aircraft, anti-missile system like 3 times less, they need 3 times less time than usually. Like it happened with HIMARS system, with different types of heavy artillery. And we also hope that instead of long months of preparations to use battle tanks, it will take like 1.5 months up to 2 months. But fighter jets is a different story. And I wouldn't be surprised if when there was a decision with fighter jets supplied to Ukraine, Ukraine would have already had at that moment ready pilots for those machines.
And Ukraine does still have some functioning fighter jets and pilots, right? At the beginning of the war, it was expected the Ukrainian Air Force would be disabled very, very quickly, and it wasn't, and played, I think, quite an important role in the defense of Kyiv. But do you know, Maria, how much of a role the fighter jets that Ukraine currently has playing?
Unfortunately, I don't know, and this is, I would say, the least information we have about this area or about this sector, because you can hardly find any information from the pilots themselves, and there was actually only one of them who gave an interview over this period of time, but still there are several dozens at least of those who are active.
Of course, there's a very big if in all of this, and that is even if, say, a country like the Netherlands were to give F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine, it's the same rules as with those tanks. They need the permission from the country that's the supplier, in this case, the United States. The Biden administration at the outset of the war was categorical that it would be no, because they didn't want a situation where it would seem like there could be offensive raids against Russian territory. Do you have any inkling that that may have changed or could change?
I'm pretty sure it will change because the political rhetoric around the weapons supply always differs from the ongoing discussions, and no one wants to send any messages that will deteriorate the feelings of the white publics, or will give any arguments to Russian propaganda to say that someone is going to offend Russia or something like that. And that's why we heard the same rhetoric about HIMARS system that Ukraine is never going to have it, then about other pieces of artillery, then the same about Patriot systems. Now we started receiving them and it's going to receive more. And the same, the hottest discussion was about battle tanks, which are now a reality, the decision itself. So it will come, the decision. Because if we speak in the categories and in terms of counteroffensive operations, so it's hardly possible to do it effectively if you cannot support your land forces with, on the one hand, extremely effective long-range missiles, which is another task number one right now, I would say, like to have ATACMS. And secondly, if you do not possess enough number of fighter jets, which can be used to secure land forces while they are counteracting the Russian army.
Final question for you, Maria. Do you understand hesitancy by many when they see this news of a request for fighter jets? Because there is this feeling that it's the whole of Europe being dragged into a direct confrontation with Russia.
This, I understand the feeling of the white public, because Western politicians were using this rhetoric for a long period of time, for entire year, let's say, of the war, because they were somehow naming the battle tanks as not defensive but offensive weapons. So they created actually this, and this is part of their political responsibility, because we cannot speak about any kind of weapons to be an offensive one in case of Ukraine, because Ukraine is using it on its sovereign soil. And now the same logic applies to how people feel about, ordinary people in Western countries feel about fighter jets. As soon as this rhetoric will be changed on the side of political and decision makers, then it will change rhetoric in societies as well.
Maria Zolkina, many thanks for being with us from Warsaw. I want to thank as well Gulliver Cragg for dropping into our Paris studios.
Thanks for having me.